Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this is the fourth session, I think. Yeah, fourth session of Rains Retreat 2025. As I mentioned last week, I have skipped over a few of them to now move on to the seventh factor, right mindfulness. I'll go back to the other ones, the sila later, maybe next time. But on one hand, it's helpful to follow these steps, the Eightfold path or Tenfold path, sequentially, to go through them, and it's sort of like the kind of foundations of practice are built up. The Buddha usually gives the most important one first and then moves on. But at the same time, the Eightfold path, Tenfold path, is to be practiced all together. All these factors need to be tied in together. So, I skip over to this one, right? Mindfulness, because it's very important, significant one in the Buddhist teachings. Then perhaps when we go back to the sila, we have a different way of looking at it, because it's really the real practice of sila is based upon mindfulness too, and collectedness, and they're all work together. See, all interrelated. So. Anyway, the first one, this theme today, right mindfulness. I guess the first thing is, what is mindfulness? Or go back to the Pali word sati. What is this, whatever it is, concept, idea? What is this function, sati? Because it's not mentioned, as far as I know, it's not mentioned in other religious traditions. But the Buddha gave it a very primary place in his teachings. The Buddha, this sati is in the Eightfold Path. It's one of the five spiritual powers, one of the five spiritual faculties, one of the factors of awakening. And, it's got a always very significant place to play in the Buddha's teaching of spiritual development. But exactly what is it? And surprisingly, nowhere in the Pali Canon is it defined. Maybe people in the Buddhist time knew already what it meant. But through looking at the various contexts, we can figure out what kind of more precisely what it is. Particularly, the main source is these two particular discourses of the Buddha. In the middle-length sayings, Majjhima Nikaya number 10, and the Digha Nikaya long discourses number 22. They're called the Satipatthana and the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. And this, the sati is in there, and there's also the patthana part of it is more like the establishing of mindfulness, establishing of sati. How do we establish it? How do we establish this particular quality of mind, you can say? By looking at the ways the Buddha mentions about how to establish it, we can figure out basically what it is. And to kind of make a long story short, is basically an objective awareness, objectively observing, objectively aware of something, very similar to the function of attention. Are you aware of attention? Attention is a mental quality which everybody has. It's a fundamental function of the brain to have attention. If you don't have attention, you don't know anything, because you can't attend to anything. You can't see anything. And people who have, what do they call it now? Attention deficit disorder, whatever it is, ADHA or something. Yeah, they have trouble, developing their attention. They have trouble holding it onto an object. They're very, very distracted. So I don't know what it means in the long term. It's very hard for them to learn something. in school, for example. It's hard for them to focus on something. But anyway, attention is very, very significant in the Buddhist teachings. The Buddha, one of the things he mentioned, special case of attention, manasikara, was yoniso manasikara. And this means basically attention to the source. Yoniso means the source. So at that point, it can also mean kind of the appropriate attention, thorough attention, wise attention to the very source of things. Now, we say, if I say, objective awareness, sounds simple, right? The trouble is the way that human beings are set up. We are mostly subjectively unaware. When we have some perception of something, it's usually subjective. Subjectively we do it, not objectively. As I mentioned already, we look at the world through our little prism of views and opinions. So we see what we want to see, and then we have all these biases. These biases, the prejudices, our defilements, blah, 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 which just gives us a very, very narrow view of reality. We don't see it. And we see what we want to see to preserve ourselves and meaning praise ourselves and pat ourselves on the back, etc. Definitely avoid any kind of criticism and threat or something to ourselves. So we're not very objective. That's why the Buddha maybe points out the importance of developing this quality to be able to observe the facts objectively. What's really the situation? Rather than seeing it through all our own particular misperceptions, if you like. And then awareness, again, how many times are we actually aware of something? Usually it's for a moment, then we're thinking about it, judging it, trying to analyze it, figure it out, explain it, and maybe, and then of course, if you only are aware for that, really aware of that 1 millisecond, are you sure you got the facts? So many times your perceptions were so wrong. In fact, the Buddha says, from this highest level of truth, we are all misperceiving things. We have vipallasa, distortions of perception. We think in terms of ourself. We think in terms of permanence. Yeah. But the reality is no permanent self. Everything's impermanent. So we're misperceiving all the time. Yeah. And we build a whole world on that. And so no wonder we can't see, we aren't enlightened. But there's hope. The Buddha gave us teaching how to break through this veil of delusion, you could say. So I think that's why the Buddha emphasized this quality of sati, just to give us the basic facts of reality. And many times, it's in the Thai forest tradition, they say sati panya. That means mindfulness and wisdom. Only the wisdom, the understanding can arise from clear seeing. If you're seeing distortion, how are you ever going to see the truth? We think it is the truth, but it's our distorted perception of the truth. So, you got to get the facts right first, folks. Then maybe you can see through it. So anyway, this quality is something which, the Buddha seriously encourages, and he takes it very seriously, because this discourse, the discourse on the establishing of sati, is very extensive, as you've read, like a textbook. I forgot to add up now, but there must be about 100 meditations there alone. Just in breathing alone, there's 27 meditations there. In the Dhammas, 27 Dhammas. Yeah. A lot to be aware of, right, folks? But let's start at the beginning. So, keep it easy. This is only the first page, by the way, on the whiteboard here. That's only the first page. first exercise, basically. But once you got the basics, once we learn just like learning the rules of some game or something. Once you learn the rules of the game, then you can play within the parameters, see? So once you learn the basics, because a lot of it is repeated again and again for the other themes, So I would suggest maybe for the word mindfulness has been kind of overused, I think, even misused, I would say. So I would say that I would translate sati as attentiveness. So it's the ability to bring up attention to certain areas of our experience. And then the Buddha gives us, the what to be attentive to, 4 themes: the body, the feelings, the states of mind, and particular phenomena, particular categories of the Buddhist teachings and reality. So these are the 4 most important themes. I mean, you could be, I was sitting on my deck just now in the sunshine, and I could look out at the green leaves. I could be attentive to the green leaves for the whole time, and then miss out Sutta class, and then be unmindful. But being attentive to leaves is not a primary teaching of the Buddha. I guess we could turn it around, of course, and reflect upon the impermanence of leaves, maybe, or something, or blossoms, But having these 4 themes pointed out to us is, first of all, very helpful. And then the Buddha tells us how to be attentive. How to be attentive to them. That's the second part there, the so-called refrain, I think it's called. Internally, externally, both internally and externally, being attentive to the arising factors, the passing away factors, then arising and passing away together, and then being aware of the themes, just to the necessary to have knowledge and mindfulness. That means basically not to think about it, analyze it, just be aware of it, just be observant of it, be mindful or attentive of it, to it. So these are the basic themes the Buddha gave, and then the progression is also goes from the very beginning. It gives an announcement, and the Buddha is very, very praising of this practice, right? The direct path. I would say it's not really specifically mentioned, but I would say probably the Buddha presumes that we've also are aware of and developed the previous 6 factors to be a direct path. It's only one factor of many, you see. So hopefully there's a grounding in right view and a grounding in morality. And there's also in the first introduction guidelines, there's also a hint at samadhi as well, or collectedness. So it starts off with, I changed the wording a little bit from the text, Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. I changed it slightly. So it suggests, that one should be diligent, that's right effort. That's the previous one to this one, right? And then there is, clearly knowing. You can say that's, a little bit to do with right view and right aspiration. Clearly knowing, so that's sampajanya. Then mindful, and then, putting away covetousness and discontent. Covetousness is a synonym for greed. Greed, longing, and discontent is also a synonym for suffering. So basically, it's putting away, greed and aversion. Discontent is a type of aversion. Discontent, suffering of aversion. So in order to put away greed and aversion, the kind of most direct way, I'm using the same words, most immediate way is to develop some degree of collectedness. When the mind becomes more collected, the hindrances are abated. They don't go away, but the hindrances of sensual desire, ill will, pass away. They're just kind of in the background, you see. Be able to maintain some degree of collectedness or samadhi. So that's kind of hinted at. So in those few there's most of the Eightfold Path is already there as a preliminary. See? And then the Buddha goes into the actual exercises. The first exercises, there's some discussion. I mean, apparently in the Mahayana scripture, the Chinese translation, I think, of the early Pali Canon, they put the bodily postures first. Postures, activities, then the breathing. So it's sort of like from going active to more passive, if you like. Because the breathing meditation is done by sitting. The instructions are going to a quiet place, going to the forest, the root of a tree. A bit damp this morning, but sit under a tree. But anyway, going to a quiet place, in other words. And then one crosses one's legs and one brings mindfulness in front of the face, literally, in front of your face. That could mean this means bringing up, this exercise, to the point of the nostrils, a breathing exercise. Then when mindfully breathes in, mindfully breathes out. And there's that already, for some people, that's already quite a big exercise. Huh? Can you just mindfully breathe in and out without thinking about it, without being distracted? Okay, how about, if we come back next week, you can try it out first. But it is the development of mindfulness, So, maybe in the early stages, it's only very momentary that you're actually aware of the breathing. But I would say that even if you aren't aware of the breathing, by bringing up mindfulness, it's like mindfulness is there, trying to focus on breathing, and then it's mindful of thoughts, mindful of sensations in the body, and mindful of distraction. Isn't that interesting? Huh? I thought I could control my mind. I can't even do the first exercise. I thought I was a good student. I got A's in school, Didn't help me when you try and watch your breath, though. So I used to give out letters. You get a C, you get a B, you get a D, failed. Failed in being mindful of breathing. How would I know? Huh? Yes. But you could say, all the breathing exercises, the 4 of them, I designated 4, 4 different ones. And at the very end of it, then it says about, being aware of these themes, internally, externally. But I would say that the actual practice is each one you do that. You be mindful of in and out breathing. You do this internally, externally, and then internally, externally, and then being mindful of being mindful, of breathing, the rising factors, passing away factors, and then the rising and passing away, etc. Each exercise. So there's the second part there about the various ways to do it. There's 7 different ways and 4 exercises. So what do you got? 28, right? 4 times 7. I said 27, didn't I? Anyway, delete that. I'm still looking at leaves. Partially. Anyway. But the point is, one of the significant points is that in the first part was being aware of, you can say, the object, be aware of in-breath and out-breath. You say. And then when it goes to the second part there, it changes from the object to the very characteristics. You're now being aware of the characteristics of breathing, not breathing as an object itself, you see. So what's breathing anyway? Is there something you can say is breath? Can somebody show me their breath? What color, what weight? I don't want to look into your lungs. It's a process, isn't it? Breathing is this process. It's arising, passing away. It's internally. And we come to this part here, explain a bit more clearly what it means. Internally, it means within one's own body. And with various uses of the word external, bahida, in the Pali Canon, basically mean externally. It means in somebody else's body, another body outside. And then both together, internally, externally. There's various interpretations of that, because you can say how to be aware of feeling in somebody else's feeling or states of mind. Okay? Not so easy, is it? You can observe their breathing, perhaps. They're still breathing, but what's their feeling? It seems to imply that you have to have psychic powers. However, body, mind are interrelated. So if you know yourself what the physical expressions of certain states of mind are, then you can read your own body, read other bodies too. I think you probably can recognize that somebody walks in the room there, you can probably observe just by their bodily posture, body language, what their basic state of mind is. Whether they're distracted, whether they're, of course it takes a strong emotion, strong state of mind, angry or greedy or whatever. Somebody's coming in from just before the meal and they're salivating. I guess they're hungry. Must be something good for lunch. Or if they come in afterwards and they're frowning, not enough food, or whatever. But I think that the main point is to give us a balance. Because my own, experience or something, I can say conclusion of experience is that if you observe the breathing too internally, you can get a bit dissociated from reality outside. There is an external reality. There are the four elements, the Buddha said. There's the four elements and how they are put together. We have to relate to that. But if you're only observing internally, it's like you become a little bit too self-centered, and you kind of get a bit distortions of perception, for example. And then maybe you become a little bit dissociated. So, even though it's not so easy externally, but the Buddha is giving us this balance, internally, externally, and both together, they're interrelated. Everything's breathing. Even those frogs out there are breathing. That's why they're croaking, I guess. They got sore throats. I don't know. And of course, especially when it comes to the nature of arising, nature of passing away, this is where the Buddha is specifically pointing out this fundamental reality of life. It is continually changing, arising, passing away, arising, passing away. If you can observe the breathing as, say, an object, a bit more as an object, maybe it can give you a bit more easily focus on it as an object, but actually as a process. You say that's when the meditation kind of shifts, what we call insight meditation. You become aware now of the process of arising and passing away, of everything. There is actually no objects. It looks like it. It looks like there's an object here, but this also is arising, passing away. Okay, so it's very slow, hopefully. but this thing here is put together, and it'll fall apart. Something will break on it. It's arising and passing also. Everything is arising and passing. Of course, to make use of it, we kind of give it a bit of emphasis of permanence, you see. But one day maybe somebody will try and use it and it just won't work. Then they'll be really upset. Whereas somebody who has wisdom say, oh, well, it's naturally following its impermanence, so it's a good lesson, But we don't look at that normally. Mostly we're looking for permanence. That's the whole basis of our sense of a self, looking for something solid to hang on to, something to depend upon, some permanence, some permanent self, essence of some kind. But the reality is otherwise. So by giving us this contemplation, the Buddha is giving us this insight, as it were, into reality, the way of opening up to it. Then mindfulness, and then knowledge, being aware of the body in this case, just enough for knowledge and mindfulness to arise. This helps us, just to recognize that just being aware of that particular theme, without interpreting it. It's so easy to go into interpretation, isn't it? I mean, you can say the reality of it is one thing, interpretation is many. You could interpret the reality of something very, very simple, just this way. This is the way it is. But the interpretation is so many, you can write books about it. And there are books written about it, including my own up there. But it's not the reality, right? Just hopefully it's a doorway into it, So, okay. So what else have I got here? Okay, you may notice here that in the breathing exercise alone, say there's 4 exercises. And these exercises, they change slightly too, because the first one, it just says, the first 2 actually, when one knows, there's knowing there. This is Pajapati, this is Pajanati. This is Sampajanya and Pajanati. They're all from the same root. Clearly knowing. Yeah. So the first 2 are just knowing. It means breathing in not mindfully. Knowing is in-breath and out-breath. And then the second one is a bit more refined. We're now observing or knowing the breath is long or short. And, in and out, long and short. I would even say sometimes I suggest for people on retreats, for example, that when they have a bit more time and a bit more to work with it, you can also add more things to that too. Not just long and short, but whether it's deep or shallow, whether it's relaxed or tense. I'd say that's a helpful one, because sometimes people get really caught up with trying to do the exercise, and then they get really tense, and then their breathing is very shallow. And if your breathing is shallow, naturally, maybe a lot of us work now at jobs where you're sedentary, sitting in a chair, maybe you're hunched over, and your breathing is somewhat constricted. I have to crunch over to look at you, but should I sit up straighter? Pull back the shoulders slightly. But if you breathe shallowly, then when you come to sit meditation, your shallow breathing, as you sit, the breathing slows down, and it's already shallow, so you don't get enough oxygen. So what'll happen? Crumple effect. Fall asleep. Because you aren't getting enough oxygen. You get enough oxygen normally if you're just, if you're active. But as soon as you sit down, I mean, so many people, they're quite active in ordinary life, and they come and sit, and they just flap, just like that. They can keep themselves flying all day when they're running around, but as soon as they sit, plop. So you can try to expand that second exercise to also be aware of the kind of breathing, especially if it's tense, relaxed. Relaxed should be, deep. I mean, in a way, this leads on to the second part, the third exercise, literally experiencing the breath body, which is really experiencing the body in the breath. No, experiencing the breath in the body. That means that you being aware of the breathing in the whole body. Breathing the whole body. I mean, when you're breathing, the body is, the lungs are rising, the air is coming in, inflating the body, and then deflating. But to be aware of this, of the whole breathing process, not just at the nostrils, say, for example. And the next, the third and fourth one, it also changes. Instead of knowing, one is training to experience the whole breath body, and then training to tranquilize the breath body, the breathing process. To train the mind to do that, because especially the tranquilizing part of it, you see, be very, very careful, because you say if you aren't breathing properly and it's not breathing, you say, naturally and deeply, and tranquilize the breathing process, then you just drift off into never to land. And it's a very peaceful meditation, but not a lot of wisdom. And then, it also, the body meditation, there is, what is it? 1, 2, 3. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 exercises in the body awareness. And I would say that, generally speaking, the body is, for most people, maybe not today, but for most people, is a lot easier to observe. It gets a bit more subtle. The feelings, states of mind, it gets more and more subtle. Whereas the body, for most people, generally, is more obvious, or you can observe it more carefully, slower to change, easier to observe, generally speaking. Nowadays, so many people are disembodied, it's not so easy anymore. But there are 6 exercises altogether. From the breathing, moves on to the next one is the 4 postures. And it also just says knowing when the body is, sitting, the body is standing, the body's lying down, the body's walking. 4 different postures. Of course, there's a lot of other postures, but they're covered in the next one too. But these are the 4 main postures. The Buddha, in the formal exercises, there's lots of attention paid to sitting meditation and walking meditation. But there's also meditation. And one of the monks, when he was in Switzerland, he taught a lot of standing meditation. I'm not so great at that, And then there's the lying meditation. I'm really good at that. But if you, in general, the body, in general, goes through these different postures all through the day, you see. So if you can extend your meditation from just sitting, watching the breath, to the other postures, your meditation continues, right? You can develop this ability to be mindful or attentive to all the activities, not just sitting. For many people, it's easier when you're sitting, of course, right? Just sitting here, not much going on, your eyes are closed, not much distraction, in a quiet place, not a lot of sound bothering you, and there's not much you have to do. You can cut down on the sight, sound, and smell, hard to do unless you plug your nose. Taste, not eating anything. And touch, not much touch, just sitting. Those just, maybe mental activity, yeah. This probably is enough to work on. But if you have all the other senses also working, a little bit harder, But it is possible. It's possible to do that. Once this sati, this attentiveness gets built up, then it kind of gets a bit more continuous. Ajahn Chah gave the analogy of like turning a tap. You turn a tap just a little bit and just a little drip comes out. That's kind of like our drip of mindfulness once in a while. Huh? You remind yourself, oh yes, yeah, breathing right, yes. Then blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, breathing right, yes. Blah, 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 blah. But if you keep developing it, keep working on it, then it gets, turn the tap a bit more. And it comes a little bit, a few more drops come, until ideally, they say the Arahant has continuous mindfulness, attentiveness, 24/7. Even their so-called sleep. It probably isn't the same kind of sleep as we have. They can even be mindful in their dreams, etc. They say. I don't know it myself, but I have had some mindful dreams, though. I remember once time for a story. Once I was staying in this temple in Bungan, I think. Yeah, I think it was Putok, this famous Ajahn Juan, and he lived on this pinnacle mountain, 7-story mountain. He had 7 terraces on it, and he lived in this. So he had to climb up. The monks had to climb up these ladders and staircases and walkways. And I was up on the 5th level, I think it was, the 5th story, And it was a real adventure getting up there, And my kuti was a little lean-to on the side of this cliff, with a bed about this wide, and it was sloped down the slope. If I rolled over at night, I would roll up the thing. And there was a walkway to it, and I mean it went this way, and then it went that way, and it went this way. It's one plank. So you had to be very mindful to get up there alive. Just walking around. And one day I was walking along there, and I just kind of mind drifted off, and I slipped on the rocks, heading for the wake up. You gotta be mindful I was so mindful, even in my sleep. In my dreams, I was mindful whenever I moved around. Totally alert. And when I went up in the morning after the alms round and the meal, I used to go up on the west side because the sun rose on the east, of course. So the east side was very hot. So I'd go up on the west side all the time. See? And then I'd come down in the morning, come down on the east side, because the sun was rising over the mountains of Laos. So it was light. I'd walk down this whole series of staircases and walkways and things. And the last day I thought, I'll go up the east side this time just to see what it's like in the daylight. And I was shocked. It's a good thing I didn't do that before, because it was such a kind of a cowboy job. It was so uneven, and it was creaking, and it was. They asked it was built during the Vietnam War, so they asked the local American GIs they're going to help them to build it, and they said you can never build here. It's impossible. You're going to have big equipment and drills and all this stuff, but the Ajahn sent his monks and nuns up to drill the holes, and so they built it. So I don't think it was in the American Army approved. But nobody ever got. There's a couple of injuries, but nobody ever got seriously hurt. But anyway. So after the four basic postures, then it's mentioned the various activities. Again, extending that development of mindfulness to further fields of activity, because how many of us are aware when we're just doing everyday things? When you're brushing your teeth, when you're getting dressed, how many people are actually aware of that? Usually it's going to automatic pilot, right? And just get up in the morning, and then before you get there, you get to your office and say, how did I get here? Did I drive my car? Did I walk? Did I take a bus? How did I get here? I can't remember anything. Just a blur. So, a little suggestion is to get up 5 minutes earlier and do it mindfully, maybe slowly, and but then you might, of course, notice that maybe your clothes aren't so clean, and whatever. But and then it goes on to changes. The 4 postures and the activities are just knowing those postures, knowing the different activities. And the next one's the 32 parts of the body, And the elements, the 4 elements, it says we are considering these, 32 parts of the body, because it takes a little bit of, study of them, and then it takes a little bit of, say, analytical study and observation. 32 parts. You start off with maybe the first 5, Kesa, Loma, see, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. Very first 5 simple ones. I mean, you see your skin and your nails and your teeth maybe when you're eating, So be aware, just trying to be aware of them, and then as you consider about, these particular elements of the body, and they're internal, externally, arising and passing away, I had a really, I would say quite a significant insight once when I was in Switzerland brushing my teeth. We after breakfast, the monastery is an old former hotel, so all the rooms had my room had an ensuite and a mirror, So I brushed my teeth in front of the mirror, and I just thought, oh, maybe teeth are one of the meditations, so I'll be aware of teeth. So I just every day I would do a little bit of observing just, the earth element teeth. And then one morning I was brushing my teeth, and suddenly there's just teeth there. There's no Ajahn Tiradhammo, just teeth. And I thought that's probably the last part of me that's left, Sometime, I don't know, 10,000 years, somebody will dig up these teeth and say, "Oh, Tiradhammo, there you are." They won't even remember me, I'm sure. Of course, the internet still has my talks up there, forever, Even the aliens can listen to them, But it was a very, immediate lesson in just, impersonality, just teeth. There's nobody there, no person anymore, just teeth. These bones, teeth. And many times the forest Ajahns, they emphasize this meditation on 32 parts of the body quite a bit. And some of them had very profound insights. There's what was it, Ajahn Singh, I think his name was. Ajahn Singh, Mahapan. I don't know, two brothers. Anyway, he was in a village monastery. A lot of them were just, ordinary village monks, and they got interested in meditation practice. So he met Ajahn Mun, and Ajahn Mun gave him this exercise, 32 parts of the body. So he was, being in the village temple, he was teaching school. The monks had to teach school in those days. The school was right in the monastery at first, then next to it. So he's teaching all these children, and one day he's teaching the children, and he looked up, and there's a whole classroom full of skeletons. He thought, it's time to go to the forest, I think. So he quit his job and went back to quit his job as a teacher and went to the forest to meditate. And he was one of Ajahn Mun's, senior disciples, early days. So be careful. That one. And finally, it goes. The last one of meditations is comparing this body, our own body, to the 9 stages of decaying body. We're all going to pass away eventually. It's hard these days to get an image of a decaying body, I guess. And it starts off with just what is it? The first one is something like left one day, and then the body begins to kind of gases come in, and the maggots come out, and and then finally at the end, just bones left. In the Buddhist time, they had charnel grounds for the poor people, so they just threw the bodies outside the village, you see. So the monks could go there and observe the decaying bodies, Nowadays, you have to look on YouTube, maybe. I came across an example of this, accidentally, because when I was in one of these remote forest monasteries, I got some skin ailment. think I told people already, but I got the skin ailment. And it's a long wait. It's 40 kilometers to the hospital. And very difficult because we have to ask one of our neighbors. Martha doesn't have a car, you see, so we have to ask our neighbor to take us there, and it's a long story. So I'll just Google it. Dr. Google, what skin ailments? And then there was all these, 40 different skin ailments. Everything from skin cancer to all kinds of lesions and all kinds of things. My gosh, it was shocking. Pictures on the internet, When I got to the end of it, I just looked at mine and said, this is no problem. Oh my gosh. Leprosy, and oh my gosh. And it was just a little, it wouldn't heal up, some kind of tropical ulcer or something, so I just forgot about it and went away. But if you Google, some ailment, maybe you get an Asuba meditation, a decaying corpse, maybe, so. But this is not for the faint-hearted. So many of us in the Western countries have never seen, anybody gets a little bit sick, go to the hospital and hidden away, right? Yeah. Some people have better chance to observe, yeah, decay and old age, sickness and death, but most of us, it's hidden away, But I mean, it's where we're going to eventually. I don't want to, they say, dampen your spirits this afternoon, a nice sunny day, but this is reality. This is the Buddha's giving us these lessons on how to see the reality of the world. And some of these exercises, like the 32 parts and the 4 elements, is a kind of another way of looking at it. We can break through our own prejudices, our own narrow view of things. People look at a person, they see, usually at the face, beautiful face, and complexion and all this. But if you just see teeth, just see skin and teeth, what's the saying? Beauty is only skin deep or something. You see something different, and that's where, that's the reality, isn't it? Really, But most of us, it takes a little bit of courage to be able to do that. You want to see reality. So, but with mindfulness develops this attentiveness. It just is. We're not lost in our interpretations or analysis or covering over, our interpretations. That's the way it is. So it's like, oh, right. How could it be otherwise? And in that, there's a great peace. I mean, I think something inside us knows when we're fooling ourselves, right? And you look at something and you say, oh, that's not right. No, my interpretation is better. I'm more beautiful than I think. When you look at the facts, okay, yeah, that's the way it is. Yep. Whew, no worries. If you look at and you say to yourself, oh, I'm more beautiful than I think, like, who's going to find out the real truth, though? You're worried about the truth coming through. But when you face the truth, no arguments, no discussion. Yeah, so there's a great peace in that. Yep, end of story. But if you're fooling yourself, you're going to fool yourself right into the grave, and still not get out of it. No, you got to come back and try again next time, you see. So by developing this quality, attentiveness, just being able to see the way things really are, being honest with ourselves, if you like. And then, of course, to finish off just the brief, there's also, besides the body meditations, the 6 body meditations, there's feelings, meditation on the six feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, of a worldly sense and of an unworldly sense. So this would be like, you say, the Buddha recognizes the pleasant feeling to do with the world, like sensual pleasant feelings, due to the senses, the warm sun on your skin. But there's also the pleasant feeling comes from meditation, when the mind is very, very peaceful. That's a pleasant spiritual feeling, if you like. Then there are states of mind, you see, a little bit more there's, six feelings, but 16 states of mind are mentioned. 16 specifically, but they're kind of general categories too, But when you look in my mind, there's 16,000, 16 million states of mind, Yeah. But these are to give you certain points of reference, like main ones: greed, aversion, delusion, for example. And when the mind is uplifted, the mind is depressed, the mind is collected, the mind is scattered. And all kinds of collectedness, all kinds of scatteredness, right? In detail, but just to give you a general, kind of points of reference to observe. And then there are what's called the dhammas, or phenomena, 5 different categories, altogether 27 of them altogether. These are partly, they are like the reality of the human being, 5 groups of grasping, the 6 senses. And there's also the categories of the hindrances, the hindrances of, say, meditation practice, factors of awakening, and the 4 noble truths, the very end. The suffering, the cause, cessation, and the path of the cessation. So we come around all the way to the path to the end of suffering. So here we already got up to, well, we got to go back again, don't we? We covered 4 parts of it, I think, or 3 maybe, yeah? 3 of the 8 factors. Will I finish or not? By the time of the end of the reigns, will I finish it? I can probably do all 3 of the sila in one sitting, one session, because they're all sort of similar, right speech, right action, right livelihoods. Anyway, yep. And there's also just another little footnote for this breathing meditation. There's another discourse in the Buddhist teachings. The Majjhima Nikaya number 118 is called the Anapanasati Sutta. That is using mindfulness of breathing in a similar way, bringing in also the feelings, states of mind. So it covers it from a different point of view, through the breathing mainly, rather than specific categories of feelings and states of mind. So anyway, we started off with this, trying to be aware of the development of sati, and hopefully when you begin to put these exercises into practice, you begin to get some feel for it, what it really is, being just attentive to what's really going on, and supported by, of course, some collectedness. So I think I should pause there, leave time for one question before you go. Yeah. Some people have to leave, though. Want your question?
I already asked about this. I know I need to do more meditation.
Yeah.
To be more sati, and I can catch it
Yep.
at the beginning, but then
Yep.
I didn't let action.
Yep. Yeah. And then it takes, they usually, I say, there's also sati panya, I say. So the sati, the mindfulness, the attentiveness, sees what the situation is, and then hopefully prevents the reactiveness. See, but then you know what the situation is, and then ideally be able to look at it more objectively. So there's something you maybe get some wisdom to know how to relate to it more skillfully without reactiveness. Many people aren't able to do that. They just react to it, just caught in their habits, the reactive habits again and again and again. But with attentiveness, mindfulness, you can step out of it and just, hey, what's going on here? What is all this? What's the basis of it? How does it arise? What's going on here? Reactiveness, put it aside and get more of the facts. Then, oh yeah, okay, this is appropriate, and then you can act on the wisdom then, and not the reactiveness.
When the anger arises, I can't think of those things.
Yes,
and
yeah.
and just calm.
Yeah, yeah. Go back to the breathing, back to the breathing.
Yes,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
so putto,
Yes.
and then after I calm, then I can.
Yep. Then you can respond rather than react.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. As long as it's from a place of calmness and clarity, then there's probably some wisdom there then. Otherwise, you just compound the old habits of reactiveness and mostly unskillful. More vipaka, kama vipaka. Takes practice. Yeah. Yep.
And I'll do it better.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Don't
Step by
know.
step, step by step. So, questions? Yeah. You're supposed to know already. You got the diploma, right?
No, that's about in the meditation, the sati. So lately I find that in my meditation says, sometimes there are, I see aware, I see doing my method, I see doing the chanting, like Buddha, similar to Buddha, but I see doing it. But seems like everything, I think that I was in like a soundproof room. I still can hear the sound around it, but very distant. But it's sort of like dark. But then there was another condition, is like very alive, like everything like next to you. So like very different.
Mhm.
Oh, why is like that? Is there something? Is it the one that sort of not? So I try to check whether I'm still aware. But the noise seems like very far away. Like sound like I was in a soundproof room. I don't know, but it's very like two different, very opposite.
And some of these like, phenomena, they're very unique to each person. You see, like they call it sapawatam, just a mental phenomena. Some people hear sounds. Some people have physical sensations. Some people see visions and things. So all kinds of things happen. But the main thing is just to not make a real issue of it, not turn it into a problem. It's like it's a passing state of mind, you see. And some of them, sometimes when you can get more objective with it, you might be able to know kind of where it comes from sometime. But if you're trying to get an answer, you're still believing in it. You're still holding it in place, you see. You just got to step back, like you're the observer of it. It's like if you're too close to the traffic, you can't see the individual cars. When you step back a bit, you can see them more clearly. What kind of car, what color, and all this. But it takes a bit of objectivity. It's easier, it's easy to say, but when things happen to us like this, unusual things, we take it very personal. Sometimes people have a vision and they think, oh, I'm special. Look, it's a sign my meditation is really progressing,
I'm not taking it in special, but I just worry.
Yeah. Worrying is also taking it special, you see.
Or I just, because I talk to my friends that like you fall into something like not clear. I was just worried that there's like very quiet. Everything is very quiet. Like really quiet suddenly. So I thought, oh, am I do it correctly?
Yeah.
And also following comment on what Luang said, we want to take back, like, observe what I was serving. But is that right that we do that when our mind is quite stable? Because sometimes I do it and I thought, okay, I step back a little bit, I can see, but I'm not very quickly, my mind will get away.
Yes, yeah.
The mindfulness is not strong.
Generally, it's most useful to have a foundation of calm. Most useful, most of the time. But it's also good to know that too. Good to know, what's the kind of limit or what's the kind of degree of stability too. Because sometimes people don't recognize it. They assume that their mind's really calm and it's sensory deprivation. They stay here, very quiet environment, and then they go out and suddenly, wow, just knocked off their. It wasn't actually samadhi or collectedness. It was just not being bothered by things. You see, when you can recognize the kind, and there's also different kinds of collectedness. There's some which is very deep but very fragile. You know, like sometimes it's the mind's very very quiet, and then don't bother me. Hope nothing happens. You know, and then it's like it's like you're trying to very preciously hang on to it. You see, I mean, it's very fragile. I mean, ideally, collectedness should be well established and just like it's your normal state of mind. Things can come along and they just got to bounce off. You know, yeah. Otherwise, other times we want to hold on to it, and it's too precious, and then the body gets tense, you know, and then it's not working anymore. So got to relax and maybe expand the field of collectedness a bit more, you know. But then it's supported by the stability of it. Then it's more natural. So it's like we're studying this whole theme, you can say, of collectedness, for example, in one way. You know, we're also being aware of that, being attentive to that, and wow, the mind can go through all kinds of different phases. You know? And you can really get a sense of what is, you know, collectedness, stable collectedness, and what's the really fragile one. You know, because you can sit there and just and get a certain degree of collectedness, and probably a headache too, but but it's very very fragile and very artificial. You know.
So when in the breathing, sometimes you feel like the breathing is just somewhere inside, just very short. Because I've heard many times in the sutta, they say, oh, the breath should be very long and smooth, but like make you feel relaxed. But sometimes I've noticed when I'm very calm, you feel like you are breathing, but it's just very short. But I don't run out of breath, just still very relaxed.
Yeah.
Just inside like tuk, tuk, in, out, in,
Yeah.
out, in, out.
Yep.
Is it a normal thing or?
Could be too. Yes. Yeah. It may change too. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like I say, there's various phenomena happen, and a lot of them sometimes we have no explanation for. At the moment anyway, we can't explain it. And if you try to squeeze the meaning out of it, sometimes it's very artificial and it's not going to be very helpful.
It's very confusing sometimes when you
Yeah.
read. It said like this, but why whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah. It's the trouble with. It's the trouble with. Nowadays there's books around like. You can get really confused. Where in the Buddhist time it was all done orally, person to person. You see. So the teacher would meet you, and they'd get a sense for where you're at, and give you your own specific instructions, your own particular guidance. You see, uniquely tuned to your experience. But now you can look in the books and have all kinds of things. Like I'm wary of people reading about, other people's experiences because they may kind of compare and they imitate and they, and yeah. I mean, it's helpful to know that there is a variety of different experiences, but you have to be careful not to compare and contrast and get, judgmental about it, Yeah.
Just a basic question about meditation and being able to focus on the breathing for an extended period of time. So for me, during this rains retreat, I can now sit for 2 hours and not get too fidgety or flustered or anything like that. But I would say somewhere between 95 to 99% of that 2-hour sitting time is some version of daydreaming at the least, or intrusive, obsessive thinking at the worst,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 1% to 5% is focusing on the breath. In terms of a practice to take away with me, should I just be happy that so when I get home, for example, I'll probably be able to sit for an hour in terms of scheduling it in my day. Should I just have that guideline of, right, I'm sitting for an hour, and my aspiration is to focus on the breath, and we'll see how we go, but I just get to the hour and whatever happens, happens? Or would it be better, the other thought I have would be to shorten the practice and say, right, I'm going to sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because I think I can maintain concentration for 5 to 10 minutes on the breath without too much distraction. Which of the, or another approach?
How about the middle way?
I've read that.
I mean,
I've read that term before.
yes, yeah.
I quite understand it.
I mean, on one hand, it's helpful to have a little bit of payback, like have some moments of actually success, if you like, at the exercise. But it's also times that to train too, push through the distraction, and and I mean you have to be careful not to get too too compulsive about it, or too dogmental about it, or something or other, dogmatic about it, you say. But I mean, that's the principle is to try and be aware of the breathing, But then, like I say, we could learn in the meantime too. What else is the mind doing when it isn't on the breathing? Where does it go? And then maybe you can observe. Oh, here I'm always going in the past, and then maybe you have to say, why is that happening? Sometimes, if there's a repetition, especially of past events, I would say that they aren't properly processed. Maybe you have to look at them a bit more deeply, But then, to be able to do that, you need a bit of calm too. Not just the memories arise and start thinking about it. Could be this, and it could be that, it could be the other. You're getting much further ahead, You're distracting yourself from the meditation and not really getting a resolution from it.
If it triggers an emotional response, so that you go down a daydream or a memory, it triggers a negative emotional response, but you can still sit,
Yes.
but you're sitting with mild distress because you're ruminating on something.
Yeah.
But I can still sit.
Uh-huh.
Should I persist, or should I just say,
Well, it depends.
after this session I need to...
Depends on, one hand, again, it's can be helpful to have that experience, and then be able to, if you can be clear about it, if you can know it, Otherwise, if you start just thinking about it too much, and you just realize you're not making much, not progress, if you like, in kind of working with it, getting more and more frustrated, more and more caught up, and more tense, maybe change the posture. Even just stand up for a few moments. Stretch, just kind of shift the whole mood, and then, like I say, it's good to have a basis of calm and clarity. Otherwise, it's not, no wisdom arises. At the same time, we have to kind of push through some of the hindrances and distractions somehow, or work with them, I say. Not so much push against them, but work with them. What's really going on here, and then, kind of get down to the source of it. They all have causes. It just goes on and on and on, and maybe it's time to just shift, change the posture for a few moments, and then try again. You have to, give a different perspective then on it, So, all clear? All clear? So you two going, 3 going back. 4 too? Are you staying?
Sorry?
Are you staying here? You're going back with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, all clear? Yes? Or,
Just sharing my experience. I don't know whether it's right, but I was sitting for last 10 years. I just wake up, first thing I do, I just sit down for an hour. Most of the time I sit in the garage, and my garage is very messy.
oh,
I just sit there. I just let this 1 hour, I'm determined to it. But then one day, I feel like, I used to have a lot of anger, like really upset with everything. Since I was determined to sit every morning, one day I realized the breath and this body is nothing ever since I noticed that, I see the world a bit not beyond my control, not my husband, my kids, not my control. So less anger, of course. So I'm more happier because I don't make people do the way I want it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, profound insight, yes.
That's correct. I don't know whether
Yes,
I
that's very,
feel a lot easier
yes, yeah,
to live with other people.
yes, yeah,
I don't know if that's a correct practice.
yes,
I feel
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot easier,
yeah,
a lot easier to hop along with other
yeah,
people.
yep. Basically, you're being less self-centered,
Yes.
less self-centered, yeah. The world doesn't revolve around me and my way of doing things, you see.
No, no.
Oh, great.
Then I realize the husband and the children, no,
They have their own life,
yes,
yes.
a lot happier,
How,
a lot
how,
lighter.
how old were you when that happened?
Sorry?
How old were you when
I've been sitting for last 10, 11 years.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
So it's a long time.
Just joking. Yeah. Some lessons are hard to learn. It takes a while. Yes.
It took a long time for
Yeah.
me to realize, oh, nobody belongs to me. Why should I be controlled then?
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. Is that the Buddha one?
Yes. Yeah. Success story.
So I'm happier. I'm
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
easy to have along. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is Jane, unfortunately, Jane.
Yes.
It get into my nerves. So. But easier to get over it.
Yes. Yeah.
So everybody keep trying.
Yeah.
Try harder.
Less suffering. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
One short question. Insight meditation, is the ability to do insight meditation or perform insight meditation predicated, or is it a requirement to have mastered calm meditation? Does that question make sense? Can you do insight meditation without having achieved calm meditation?
Well, I think Ajahn Chah's advice to me was the best one. The calmer the mind, the deeper the insight. Yeah. So I mean, there's different levels of insight. For if your mind isn't very calm, it doesn't go very deep. Just like if you aren't really paying attention, you can't get the lesson from the teacher. You heard it, but you didn't really sink in unless you're really focused and really interested. See? Then it's deep insight. Oh, that's what it means. Yeah. So that's what his point was. So the Buddha in the scriptures, the Buddha said there's 3 ways to practice: insight first, then calm first, then insight, or both together. See? Yeah. So Ajahn Chah, I think, was practicing both together. It's sort of like, but some people had more ability with calm, but if you don't bring in insight meditation, it's still no wisdom, you see. Yep. And then people who would only, try to just do insight, without much calm, doesn't go very deep. Doesn't last very long. So they can have their insights, but after a little while they fade away because it's not very deep. Yep. So both together, common insight, yeah. So, all clear, yes, for now?